what did you think of the villains?
Can I compose myself?
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Ramirez and welcome to another episode of the Hit List Podcast, a podcast where me and a guest cross off films from our watch list and discuss them. Today I'm joined by creative director Travis Davis. Welcome Travis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So before we get started, I do have a little icebreaker question for you. My first question is, what's something about you that people would be surprised to know?
Ooh, obviously I'm a Batman fan. I custom Batman shirts. Surprising. I can play about 4 or 5 instruments. I fight. I don't know. I had my first MMA fight last year. That's usually in my profession. People are just like, oh, you actually like kickboxing, MMA and stuff. So that's usually the surprise people aren't ready for.
Yeah. I thought you were mostly just like into like fight choreography. I didn't know you actually like did like MMA fights and stuff.
Yeah. I started wrestling in high school and middle school, and that just continued throughout the rest of my life. And then went from karate to kickboxing, Muay Thai, and then just steamrolled from there.
Gotcha. So I do want to mention to anyone listening, Travis and I know each other because in the indie film context here in the DMV. I'm not sure how we first met, but I think it's probably through Tarek as well. I don't know. I don't even remember which project. Was it N-Word Police?
I think so. N-Word Police. Did you do anything with? Were you for Red Rising? Like any of the team stuff? It might have been N-Word Police. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Tarek always wanted me to he invited me to shoots with Joseph Lay, but every time I was always busy. Literally last week when he premiered his short at the Osaka Short Movie Film Festival, Tyler was like, "Hey, man, you gonna go?" I was like, "Dude, I'm in El Salvador right now. I really wish I could." Even though I funded the movie, I helped fund the movie. He was like, "Hey, man, that sucks, man. You're a terrible friend, man."
And he didn't make it either.
And this is Tarek saying this. It's not Joseph saying this. So I don't want to put a bad name to Joseph right now. All right. All right, so my second question for you is, what is a place, if you could travel anywhere right now, where would you travel to right now?
Oof, anywhere.
And money is not a problem.
I mean, now you're gonna drop me into conspiracy theory realms. The poles, the polar caps, man. Like it's everybody. They're so isolated. There's been so many things that have happened on the caps that I've just in my browsings discovered or whatever. So I'd go to, the caps and just, be curious. So I'd say, I don't know, North Pole.
North Pole, okay.
North Pole.
Trying to find Santa?
Yes, Santa. Or some Operation High Jump, World War II Nazi, secret bases or anything. There's a thing called Operation High Jump to where they went to some of the polar caps chasing Germans and things like that, and they sent a bunch of soldiers on a ship. Yeah, it's a long story, but yeah.
And this is a real thing?
Operation High Jump, man.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
man.
I was thinking something like vacation,
Oh, no, I'm an explorer. So, all right, if we're going to go vacation, I'll say Italy.
Italy, all right.
Italy. I had a lot of friends. Yeah, a lot of friends. Give me some recommendations for Italy, so I think that'd be the move.
Yeah. And speaking of Italy, our main character is also Italian in the movie we're about to discuss right here. Mm-hmm. So today we'll be discussing Brainsmasher, a love story. Brainsmasher, a Love Story is a 1993 American romantic comedy film written and directed by Albert Pyun. In it, the professional model Sam Crain is asked by her sister to smuggle a package from Europe to Portland, Oregon, where she discovers that her sister is battling Chinese Shaolin monks, not ninjas. Fleeing the monks, Sam unwittingly involves Ed Brainsmasher Malloy, a nightclub bouncer. It stars Andrew Dice Clay as Ed the Brainsmasher and Teri Hatcher as Samantha Crain. This film was on both of our lists, but this was Travis's choice. So Travis, why was this movie on your list?
I love trailers. Movie trailers are my jam, especially the old school vintage ones with who's the voice actor who does the "in a time"? Like Pablo Francisco
In a
always
world.
mocks him. Yeah, like Pablo Francisco always mocks him. I forget his name, but I always like go down the rabbit. I think it's like Don LaFontaine or something like that.
Okay.
But I always go down the rabbit hole of just old school 90s trailers because I still remember the time when like you watch a trailer and go to Suncoast Video or Blockbuster, and it was just that the anticipation was always built up. And this just, I'm a big Andrew Dice Clay fan. I just saw him on somebody's podcast recently, and then this popped up, and I was just like, oh, gotta add that to the list because I'm a Teri Hatcher fan from Lois and Clark with Dean Cain.
Oh,
When
that
they
was
did that
her.
Superman series. Yep. So that was when I, first was introduced to Teri Hatcher at like the age of like 7, 8 or something like that. And then Andrew Dice Clay got introduced to his stand-up when I got older, found the trailer, and I was just like, on the list. Gotta add it. How did it end up on yours?
So it's very weird because like I saw it on my Letterboxd list and I was like, oh, it's on my list, but I forgot why. And then I remembered when I finished the movie, I saw Chad Stahelski as one of the stunt performers. And for those of you who don't know, Chad Stahelski is the director of the John Wick series. And he has built up his career along the way, starting with this movie. I think this is like one of his first movies, either his first or second movie. Went from like stunt performer into eventually like stunt lead to choreographing stunts in the Hunger Games of all movies, and then eventually just making John Wick, and now he's a big name. He's built his career for himself, and I think I saw an article a long time ago where someone mentioned like his early work and including Brainsmasher, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Brainsmasher. Oh, okay, a love story. Oh, so this person's trying to find love, you know? So I think that's why I put it on my list. Like, I don't even remember when. I have a pretty long Letterboxd list of like stuff I want to watch. I probably will never get to. It's like 800 movies long now. That I was like, oh, might as well. So, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it couldn't be made today. That's all I think. Like, it could not be made today, like, period. But it was amazing. Like, I watch, there's a guy named Jason Brand in Maryland. He does these things called So Bad It's Good reviews or whatever. So I was thinking about them the whole time watching, as far as like the tropes, as to where it's just like, the cheesy 80 action punches or the pyro stuff. So, but I thought it was just amazing just because there were no boundaries. Like it was, there were no boundaries when it came to action. There were no boundaries when it came to stereotypes and racial slurs. Like it pushed all the boundaries, and it was the perfect amount of cheese. Let me just put it that way.
Well, unfortunately for me, I'm lactose intolerant, so I don't want to say I hated this movie, but like I kept thinking like, oh, that's a choice. That's a certain choice right there. The number one thing, it's like when they open the movie, it's Andrew Dice Clay, like the Brainsmasher. She's talking on the phone. Hey, man, I gotta tell you something that happened last night, all right? Hey, what are you talking about? Yeah, she's a nice gal and all, but like, what are you talking about? No, I gotta tell you something. Okay. I mean, his mom calls on the payphone. He's calling like, Mom, how'd you get this number? It's a payphone. And like, you gotta listen to the story. Like, no one's listening to him. And then so he hangs up and just turns towards the camera. He's like, hey, you'll listen, right? Here's a story I gotta tell you about. And I'm like, what is, and like the way it's shot, it looks like an independent movie, right? Like,
100%.
Like a film student, like is like trying to like do something, and not that it's a bad thing, but like it's noticeable. And then like throughout and then like he introduces the movie, he introduces the characters, and he's like, hey, and you got this hot chick right here, and she got a terrible boyfriend, and this whole time I'm thinking like, is this the Italian Stallion? Is this Rocky?
Exposition and all that. Yeah.
And because like the thing with me is I am not a fan of narration in movies unless it's done very well. For example, Lord of the Rings, when like I forgot her name, the elf lady, she introduces like the story, like the exposition, like what's the story's about, like one ring to rule them all. Like, oh, so stuff's about to go happen right now, right? Yeah. But no, this guy, he's just telling you what's going on as it's happening. And the only time this ever worked for me is like when it's like funny. So like, for example, like just before I saw this movie, I saw like a little clip of a pup named Scooby-Doo because I had it on. It was on Boomerang. Okay. And then I guess Scooby-Doo was lost. And then Fred was like, he could be lost and alone. And then it cuts to like Scooby-Doo like in a thought bubble, like, I'm lost and alone. So like,
man.
and then
Yeah,
not
I
only
get
that,
it.
they dropped the narration. He says, "Set up
Yeah.
over." I'm like, what? We never hear a narration
Yeah.
again, and then we never get to like towards like the beginning of the movie where he introduces like, no, it just ends. The story ends, and we don't get back to him. Like, hey, that was a nice story, right? Buy my
Yeah,
books.
man. I like if we're talking about like narration and exposition, like audio. What did I watch recently that I really when I love Sam Elliott in Big Lebowski as he's talking about the dude. He's like, and then the dude went to the. I don't know if it's just his voice or the way that whole movie plays out, but Sam Elliott in Big Lebowski, I love that exposition over top.
Because it's done well. It doesn't intrude onto the story, you know.
Exactly.
So that's like the one thing I even wrote in my notes. Oh, the narration, bold choice. Because I'm not sure if you've ever seen the original cut of Blade Runner, but it is a narration from Harrison Ford's character, and not a lot of people liked it. So that's why they kept cutting the movie. And like I guess like the final cut or what the director's cut is the cut that people watch because that's the one that's like, oh, there's no narration. So
Okay, I have to double check and see which one I've seen.
Yeah, because I remember like it was on Netflix for a little bit. Like years ago, I'm like, oh, I can finally watch Blade Runner, and it's like, just like a narration. I'm like, what the hell is this? All right, so what else did you like? There's like romantic comedy elements, and there's also action elements.
Yes, good points. I did enjoy. I was very surprised. 'Cause a lot of times you get actors that can't perform action on camera. Andrew Dice Clay was doing bombs throughout this movie. I was like,
very well,
very good job. So from an action standpoint, I was very impressed with that. And then some of the wrecks, they like fell off a train tower. Like you had people going through walls. It was set up so bad because you had them going. I was like, oh gosh, but it's like I enjoy bad stuff that's good. I guess that's why I led with that podcast. But I like the bad cheese. Like I don't know, it gives me nostalgia and vibes, and it's very entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's part of like what's like its saving grace, like this film, where like when we're first introduced to the Brainsmasher, aside from the beginning, when he's as the nightclub bouncer at his job, there's like some cheesy like B-roll of like just him standing and the camera just moving around him, just showing how tough he is by just standing there, and then like I think it was like the drunk people that show up first. And he just like beats them because he doesn't want them to enter the nightclub. And I'm like, oh, he's actually doing it. You know, he actually So I was impressed with that. And then later on when he's doing like his action, like he actually looks good. He knows what he's doing. And that's probably like part of the saving grace of this film. Like even the stunt performers, which were like the Shaolin monks, they knew what they were doing as well. So what did you think about like the romantic comedy elements? Do you think they had chemistry?
No. It was so spoon fed and horrible. It was just like they set him up as the good guy who's also the tough guy who lives in it, still has a relationship with his mom and dad, and this model chick who gave him a Rolex from her ex-boyfriend. And then I was just like, they leaned it. They spoon fed it to you and just forced it way too much. I wish they would have developed more of a. I think the romantic thing could have probably fallen like line with her sister, maybe, because like her sister was more the one that had the MacGuffin, should I say, or the lotus flower that was the whole pacing of the movie. So the way she I just wanted to know more about her, and I think if Andrew was protecting her sister, she could have been more involved in the movie, and that's where a natural. Romantic dynamic could have played in times where it's just like, oh, you're this random guy protecting my sister for this thing that I don't even, that has unknown powers to rule the world that I'm controlling. So I felt like they could have switched it up a little bit more as opposed to just force feeding the whole Teri Hatcher, Andrew Dice Clay aspect,
Yeah, I see what you mean with that. Like now that I think about it, it's like a more interesting dynamic, like the explorer and the bouncer having to like fight off the ninjas. I'm sorry, the monks. And then the supermodel sister saving the day or helping to save the day because she actually has it the whole time or something like that. That's an interesting way to play it out. I think that's something that I think the reason why they had her with Andrew Dice Clay is because it's Teri Hatcher. Okay, like
it's Teri Hatcher. Man. Some of those outfits.
She reminded me of Dua Lipa a little bit.
They just Madame Tussauds just released her wax figure. Did you see that?
Of who?
Dua Lipa.
Really?
It looks good. It's way better than what they did to Lil Wayne's and somebody else's. But yeah, Dua Lipa's looks very good.
All right. I'm going to have to check it out. But I'd much rather meet the real thing, you know?
Oh, yeah. You know Garrett Terrell? I think Garrett met her.
Garrett? Really?
Yeah.
In like what capacity? Like in like a meet and greet or like...
A meet and greet. Because I remember he posted a picture recently and it's like the step and repeat at some event behind her. So I think he might have met her a couple years ago before she just blew up. Yeah.
I knew her from the days when like her dancing went viral because it was so bad at a concert. She's like... I remember that, but like she like I guess she saw that and decided to improve, which I commend her for that. Like you saw there was a need to improve and you took the chance instead of hating.
Yep. All right. Ice Spice, Sexy Red, take some notes.
All right, so back to this film.
Yes.
Yeah, the romantic comedy I did feel was a little forced. You know, like I feel like there was like friendship connection, but not like a romantic connection between the two. Like it didn't need to be a romantic connection. They could have like been fine just being like acquaintances, you know?
Yeah.
Because he even said like, "Oh, you wouldn't look at like a guy like me, you know? You like the rich guys, you know?" And I'm like, bro, shut up.
Yeah. And then also when he was saying stuff and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm just a guy trying to do good. All guys ain't bad." And then he like walks away and then they do the push into her face where it does the, "Oh, he is a good guy." Like those instant changes. I'm like, come on. It's like there was nothing that he did or said to have her just have this whole shift of just like, "Oh, look at him. He's so nice." I was like, ugh. Yeah.
You know what this reminded me of? Because I had to say this. The first time I saw Rocky, I didn't like it, right? Because I thought it was too obvios. And it is. But like the second time I watched it, I'm like, I watched it in a different period of my life. I'm like, okay, I get it now. He's the underdog. But like because it reminded me of like remember that first day he had with Adrian? They're at the ice rink, right? And she has the skates on, and he's just like running along on the ice, like, hey, and he's just talking the whole time, and she's just like quiet, she's just taking it in. That's what it reminded me of, you know?
Okay, yeah.
They're like. Not in a good way.
Yeah. Speaking of that scene, apparently they were supposed to have a bunch of extras that day, and their budget was crazy. Production was all over the place, so they literally just improv that whole scene where it's like, "Hey, let me get the ice for a couple hours or whatever." Give them the money, and then they ice skate alone. So that was, I forgot where I heard that. I think it was on Sylvester Stallone's documentary on Netflix, to where he says like, "Yeah, that was supposed to be a whole extra scene or whatever," and that they literally just found that out that day.
Wow. I think it went well for for what it was. I think it worked pretty well, you know.
And a one take on ice like that?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, what did you think of the villains?
Let me compose myself. It was so messed up. That's what I thought was just funny. It's like the Power Rangers. Like you have them start off, they're jumping over buildings, they're like going through windows, like they're catching bullets. Right. And then you have, you know, when they get into combat situations, they were just fall guys. They were putties from Power Rangers. Like it blew my mind. The Power Rangers dynamic, they could literally jump buildings, and like the stunt guys did an amazing job. They were dropping from easily 3-4 stories on some of those scenes. But then you just cut to them whenever they were in a fight, just getting knocked out. Like the one guy at the end, they had some fight beats in the disco club or whatever, but yeah, man, I was just they were stereotyped. The outfits were cool because it reminded me of Jet Li in Black Mask.
Okay,
they were kind
of. It reminds me Jet.
Yeah,
Green Hornet.
Green Hornet and but no, Green. Did he do Green Hornet? I don't know. It does have the Green Hornet vibes, but yeah, Jet Li did one called The Black Mask. If you guys ever check it out, 1990, 3 years after this, like 96-ish. But his outfit looks like that, except he has the paperboy hat on it. So, but yeah, they were kind of giving me that vibe. So I was getting excited because I was like, oh, like I recognize a couple of these stunt guys. Like this action is about to go hard. And then, yeah, it was literally just the stunts they did, and then like Yeah, I just wish there was more, especially with Andrew being able to move. Like the first hooks
Right.
he threw on, I'm just like, yo, Andrew can move. So I just wish the dynamic, but here's the thing, it comes down to timing, time to choreo, like having the time to work with the actors and things like that. So I understand it, but it was just like the power dynamic was way off for me and kind of disappointing.
Yeah. I think it was kind of funny, like when the monks first meet the Brainsmasher, like they come up to him, like they expect him to like just walk past him, and he just like double fisted them, just like, and then they just knocked out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like funny because it's like you don't
Yeah.
expect that. You thought like they'd be able to put up more of a fight, but they just fall.
Yeah. It's bad. All right, so I do like the fact that they are ruthless because, like, it's one scene in the middle when they're at his apartment his apartment, and then they come in and they knock the old lady out the window. I was like, yo, they do not care. Like, not just that scene, they knock the old lady out the window, and then when they first get into the club, they start murking everybody.
Everyone.
They hit a girl. Like, when they're walking through the crowd, a girl's like, hey, who are you? He's like, bow. I was like, yo. And then you just see Teri Hatcher and him like talking like stage left or whatever, and she's like, there's Chinese ninjas coming and taking over the crowd, and then you just see one come flying in and drop kick the guitar player. I was like, yo, this is amazing. Like,
and not only that, the band continues to play until the singer is knocked out.
Right. So that's the stuff I was like, okay, this is like, that was like getting me going. I was like, all right, now we're getting going on this. This is good.
I think the one thing that like maybe like laugh a lot is because like they even commented on it by themselves, or like Sam, she calls like the hotel that left the voice message saying like, oh, this is your sister or whatever, and he's like, oh, you can come pick me up here. And then like he hangs up, the receptionist hangs up, and you see it's like one of the Shaolin monks is right there because like he enticed him. He basically told him to do that. He's like, okay, I've done what you said. I've done what you told me to do. Like, okay, thank you. And just slaps him, right? Just slaps him, and he falls. And like the guy says, was that really necessary? I think I broke my nose. I was like, what?
Oh, bro,
because
so
it's right.
good.
Because was it necessary? No, it was not. But he still did it.
Still did it. I don't know. I feel like Albert, how you pronounce it? Pyun.
I think it's Pyun.
Pyun. Yeah, I think he just had fun. He just like was reading his like shot. Was just like, we're gonna have some fun on this one. Just smack. I hope, like you said, you weren't able to find a lot. It was hard to find information about this film, but I hope there were like gems of moments to where they improv'd a lot of this stuff, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like they like definitely ADR'd that line because it's definitely sounded like an ADR.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, were there any other comedic moments that stood out to you besides like the nightclub scene?
The parents were pretty funny because when they were just like because just having, I forget that the actor and actress in that scene, but just having his parents come go back and forth like that typical Italiano family, to where it's just like it's still love, but it's like self-deprecating love, to where it's just like you're talking trash on your family, but it's like that the tough love type scenario. Right. So I thought that was pretty funny. It got a little bit cheesy when the monks came in. What else was that? Like, oh my gosh, the police station, bro. I was like, they're interrogating her, smoking cigarettes or whatever, and it's just like, you guys have no reason to be holding them, interrogating them, and not just that, then the monks come in and just murk a police station. So I was just like, yo. And then at the end of this, the monks murk a whole police station, and Andrew Dice Clay is going to take them out. So that was just the comedic factor of just the wave they were on was just, I was dying.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me like by his parents is that it's the mom from Seinfeld. I'm like, oh, it's Seinfeld's mom. Yeah. So the other things that I liked, well, I'm not sure if I liked, but I noticed like they kept saying the same jokes over and over again. So like they kept saying, we're not ninjas, because like apparently Americans don't know the difference between ninjas and monks. I don't think they know the difference to this day either, but I think they're less stereotypical now than they were then. But
Yeah.
the other thing I really liked how like there'd be moments where like two characters will say the same line at the same time because they realize they fucked up. So the first one is when like the detectives are like interrogating Sam and they're like, yeah, because there are like some monks that are here, and then boom, crashes in. The monks come in. We're dead. Or like they say like it's Shaolin monks. They both say at the same time. They just face like they realize, oh yeah, Shaolin monks. And then the next part is like when they're at the bar, like the titty bar, I guess, and Sam is like trying to like she's like antagonizing them for no reason, you know, because like they're here's the thing I didn't get about Sam's character at that moment, because at no moment did we see like the Brainsmasher Ed have like more power than them. But like and there's like they're at this bar where they are surrounded by all the monks, and she's like antagonizing like, do you know what this guy is? He's the Brainsmasher and he hates kung fu. And he's like, bro, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's always like the drunk girl like antagonizing other people that the guy has to like fight for. Like, yo, shut up.
And then I think it was because they. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And then like, she like throws a bottle at the main guy, the main monk, and he just catches it, and they both look at each other. And it's like, we're dead.
Yeah. But I think she got cocky after that. The move he told her, he's like, you gotta step, twist, the uppercut to like the combo he showed her was like,
yeah, the 1-2,
punching the nuts. The 1-2. And so it's like, I think he's like, yeah, I invented this move. Yeah, that's right. So I think that was like supposed to be her training montage to where she got confident and was just like, oh, he's the sensei that knows the 1-2, and now I know how strong he is. So I think that was supposed to be like a realization of, you know, power dynamic or something, to where she's like, oh, he's the man, something. But I was just like, yeah, it was cheese overload.
It's like when you first take a few martial arts lessons and you think you're a badass after a few lessons. I think we've all felt that. I for sure did. Until you get humbled.
Big time. I mean, just doing, like we said, I fought earlier, just thinking, coming from a wrestling background, doing a little bit of boxing and kickboxing, and then you get into Muay Thai. I got into Muay Thai and got kicked in the leg. Oh, you thought you knew some martial arts. You thought you knew some stuff. How about a leg kick? Fire! Not know how to check. Wake up call.
I think the first time I got hit in the face, like full force, I was like, give me 1 second, because like it was just a shock. Like I didn't hurt. It was more of a shock than it was anything else. And then like the most recent time, I kind of have to stop a little bit after this, where I was like kind of sparring with someone, but it was like light sparring. Like it wasn't full force sparring. I guess I was going a little too hard, and the guy was like going hard because he was like connecting my energy. You know, he's like matching my energy. I'm like, okay, I should probably back down a little bit. And I went like a little low, and then like no, he was still high, so like he was still like up this level, so he was still going full force. Like, then I'm going full force, you know, slipping, you know, and then like I kind of like I try to do like the Mike Tyson thing where like he like slips in and he just punches whatever. I'm not sure like the name is, but like he would just slip and then boom. But I guess like I slipped, but like he knew I was gonna do it, so he just hit me right there, and then my neck went back like that. So I was like here, boom, and I was like 1 second, because I was like it felt like whiplash for a second. I was like, nope, 1 second, and I was like
composure.
And then I was like, okay, I'm done for today. No, I can't come back.
But it humbles you, man. It humbles you.
For sure, because like I realized like sometimes I might like do like a little too hard of a hook or whatever, like too quick. And then he's like, oh, and then he matches my energy. And then I try to like slow down myself, my composure, my body language, but he's still on that. He's still matching the energy. So I'm like, okay, now I had to match his energy because he was matching me from before. So
yeah. Poke the bear, man.
Yeah. So it wasn't even that hard of a punch. It was just like wrong moment, you know? So like I was just thinking like if he was actually hitting me full force, I would have been knocked out.
Yeah, it's all about timing too. Like there's guys that'll knock themselves out just by walking into a punch. Like it's all about timing, rotation. Like that's why they call it the sweet science, man. It's not as barbaric as people assume.
Yeah, and I had to like stop for a little bit because that was me coming back into it because my shoulder got fucked up last year, like literally around this time last year. and I couldn't even like lift my arm without like immense pain. So I couldn't even throw a punch for like many months. So that's why I was trying to make up for that time. But no, I was like, no, I'm just gonna do jiu-jitsu for a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, just gotta switch it up.
Yeah,
switch it up.
Were there any like standout moments in the stunts that you mentioned? Like, is there something like stood out the most?
The high jump, just a lot of the high jumps, because a lot of the establishing shots you show them on rooftops. Ain't no wires up there. They're literally jumping from roof to roof or dropping down. So there's some high stuff. Whereas I don't know if they cheated it and like we're on set and like build a small set and then backdrop it. But there's a lot of stuff to where they're jumping, and initially that like really blew my mind. It had the typical like shoot up high like Power Rangers. It shows some jumps and then I think go over or whatever. But that was the main part that really stood out to me. And then a lot of the wall wrecks. So like they had a lot of wrecks to where they were breaking through windows, glass, like in the police station, like they're just walking down the hallway, kicking a bunch of dudes in the doors and stuff. So a lot of the set, they had very good sales. Like who did you say earlier was the stunt guy for this?
Chad Stahelski.
Yeah, Chad Stahelski. Was he just a performer in this, or was he the stunt?
I think it was just a performer. This was him starting out.
Okay. Yeah, whoever did the stunt coordinating and fight choreography on this, they did a very good job, especially with the world building. I loved whoever did the art department and the smalls in this did a wonderful job. Like the world building from just the nightclub to the police station to everything. Everything was built up very, very well. Yeah, so stunts, everything surprised me. I have to, I guess, the thing that was kind of disappointing was all this fighting and stuff was built up for the ultimate power of the flower. Like, I forgot what they said. It makes you the ultimate sorcerer or something. Yeah, ultimate warrior or something like that. It goes all the way to the end, and nobody consumes the flower to get the ultimate power. It's just like in a case, and I was just like, you're building up this anticipation for this powerful flower, and then
literally, like, and it was just like poisoned, like she like switched it out so like it was for something else. I was like, it kind of like it does disappoint. And for me, like some of the sequences that like stood out to me the most, what stood out to me the most was the nightclub scene, because for one, it's like choreographed dancing. Like I don't think I've ever seen a nightclub or like in any movie where like the whole audience is like their own choreographed dance. Like it's a whole line dance basically. And to like a rock theme, to a rock song. But what also stood out to me is because the singer, or like just like the whole aspect, the whole atmosphere right here, reminded me of nostalgia from the John Wick 1 and 2. Nostalgia is the singer in both of those movies. I think she was also the band in John Wick 2, with the one he like kind of crashes through. So, and then like the way they're like fighting as well, it just reminded me of that nightclub scene in John Wick. So like I think there might be some inspiration that this film played into to Chad eventually directing John Wick and doing that nightclub scene. There might have been some inspiration there to like how it was shot and how they could have improved upon it, which that nightclub scene is still one of my favorite scenes in cinema. Like when I saw it in theaters, like I can brag about this. I saw John Wick in theaters the weekend it came out, because back then, people don't remember this, no one liked Keanu Reeves back in the day. It was like he was like a mixed actor, like you either loved him or you hated him. At that point, people thought his career was dead, and then people thought the premise for the movie sucked. I still loved him, right? And then I went to see this movie. I was like, y'all are gonna eat your words, and they don't even remember the words that they ate. They don't even remember. Anyway, so the nightclub scene, that's what stood out to me. I think that served as part of the inspiration for John Wick.
And I do like I do, now that you're mentioning the nightclub scene, I instinctively remember, I guess two of my favorite ones are Triple X, when the spy's walking through. I guess because I like that band Rammstein, bang, bang. So just the whole aesthetic of that, like it was very short. They essentially just kill the spy and go off, but just the whole aesthetic world building of that. And then when Teri Hatcher's walking through the crowd on this one, I was instantly just like, oh my gosh, Blade. Like, if this would be a nice Blade setup, because Blade, the first Blade, they're in the dungeon, the meatpacking thing, and then it's very like EDM nightclubish to where it's isolated in a container.
And it's like a low ceiling too.
Low ceiling, but I was like, what if they had Blade in like a more open space to where it's like if you see in Blade 2, he's like jumping off the rafters and like his vertical is just crazy. You really see a dynamic of his power. So when I saw Teri Hatcher walking through and like all the people were bumping into her, I was like, yo, Blade had some room to play, and they wanted to take those VFX were up there in the stunts. So like those two scenes like just instantly popped in my head when it came to like just the crowds and utilizing the scenes and the space and the environment.
So are there elements of this film that you think was distinctly 90s?
The obviously wardrobe, art department did a wonderful job. The music for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, just Andrew Dice. That's what sold me. Just Andrew Dice Clay was the main hickory dock. You know, like he just having him in that stereotypical Italian machismo vibe was there. But just the language of the times, you know what I mean? To just be open. That's why I said we can't make that today. Just to be open, like my sister says you're Chinese, you know what I mean? Like to be able to openly say these types of things, and then just openly like I in no way condone hitting women or domestic abuse or anything like that, but just to be able to make a movie and just hit women for no reason or just like to be able to do all these dynamics or whatever. I'm just looking at it just like, okay, I'm going down the checklist. Like if I was a filmmaker today, couldn't do that, couldn't say that. So just the freedom they had, that just gives me big 90s vibes. Something that really, I guess the actors alone. The actors alone just really sold me into the 90s vibe just because I only know them from so many things from that time. I guess the way they do some of the establishing shots, like the standard punch-ins or like the like you said, the intro Andrew Dice Clay's on. So the way they did set up shots, like I guess in the 90s you did have a lot of pan shots that were like stereotypical to where you're not having complex rack focuses or anything like that. So just the way the shots were the setup very cookie cutter on certain aspects. But mainly the characters alone, their work of history, filmography, and all that it just settled me right in.
Yeah, I think what the whole thing of like you couldn't make a film like this today, I think they couldn't make it back then either because like it was straight to video, you know. So it wasn't like
I didn't even know that.
It wasn't like a wide release. It was intended for a theatrical release, but it was eventually just like straight to VHS. So and that I think that was kind of on purpose for Albert Pyun because he's done a lot of direct to video movies and he likes to. When he's still alive, he said like the reason behind it is because like it's more of a chance of like more people seeing it, because he thinks like to have like a theatrical release is kind of like a vanity type of thing where like people don't consider your movie a real movie unless it's like theatrically released, which to this day is still kind of the notion of that as well. So like even if you make an independent film, people don't really consider it a film; they consider it like a video, unless it was theatrically released. So and I feel like it could still be made today. You just have to be really good about it, you know?
Yeah.
You just have to be like, know what you're doing. Like the example I make, it might not be a great example because I'm not very good at articulating my words, but like Rush Hour, right? So there are some audiences, like there's like some Gen Z who don't want to watch the movie because they think, because it's racist, right? But there's a difference between being racist and being ignorant, because in Rush Hour, they're racist, they make racist jokes, but they're not hateful, you know? It's not like Birth of a Nation. It's like it's just intended to be funny. It's not intended to like hurt them. It's just a funny little joke.
Exactly.
And so like I still laugh at them. You know, I'll be honest. Like I still laugh. It's because it's funny and it's not intended to like harm. It's intended to make you laugh, which it does. Like when Chris Tucker says, "I've been looking for a sweet and sour chicken ass," it's messed up. That's why it's funny. That's why it's funny, because it's fucked up.
It's just you have to understand the context. Like if you can't be so closed-minded to not give people perspective on their journeys of storytelling and then just have open context. You know what I mean? Everything's trying to be so PC and put in a box. It's like you have to understand the context of what they were trying to say.
Yeah, and so. what demographic do you think will find this movie the most appealing?
Our generation, I think, just because we were right in that we were the generation that didn't have internet and television and everything. And then we got to see the transition from the culture shifts throughout, 80s up to 90s to now, so I think we would enjoy like it, but Z or any of the other, I do not foresee them. I think, but I do think we have, maybe it's because we're a part of this like niche eccentric part of filmmakers and artists and things like that to where we appreciate. So there is a niche market for people to enjoy this. But I think like podcasts like yours to where we're reviewing these type of things or we're going back in history to talk about filmmakers and the research you did in regards to the director and the stunt performer. I think the more we do these type of engagements, it'll build cult followings for films. You know what I mean? You got like, what was the film that I guess kind of had like a cult following? Like Donnie Darko or something, you know what I mean? To where it's like, it's very niche and people don't really talk about it, but it gets a cult following. So I think the more we do things like this and just talk about the process and journey, just because you learn from everybody's, process as filmmakers, I think there's a niche market that will grow. But the Gen Zs, and I don't think they'd be able to appreciate it unless beforehand they watch platforms like this and other ones that review these type of content.
For sure. And I think that's what I was saying as well. Like, I think the demographic who will like these type of movies are like people who like intentionally bad movies or like movies that like were made with like a passion, because you could tell this movie like the director wanted to do a good job with this. He didn't like quit halfway through. He didn't like I might as well do this and that, because as ridiculous as it is, you can tell he likes filmmaking because he hired stunt performers that are really good. He got like art decorators to do a really good job for like both the set design and also just for the wardrobe as well. So you can tell like filmmakers would like this movie because there's a lot you could learn from this, because like they didn't have CGI, so like they had to like make, like you said, like unique perspective from the camera, like shooting from like down, shooting up high from a lower position to make it look like they're higher up. So I think that's the demographic. Like filmmakers will like this movie, especially independent filmmakers. Yeah. Because like the tricks that they used back in the 90s and 80s will still work today. They just not used as much because there's like much more heavy reliance on computers, which is not a bad thing. It's just you have to do it well. Just
exactly.
Pour more tools in your belt.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to talk about this movie before we move on to production?
No, I'm pretty good. There's nothing else I can really think of.
All right.
When you said 90s, the other thing that stands out in my head that really put it in 90s, payphones.
Oh yes,
payphones. Yeah.
Oh man, completely forgot about that. We opened with a payphone too.
Opened with a payphone, and when you mentioned, I thought about it when you said she called her sister about the hotel thing or where to go, because he had left. That was the other thing that they like. Their whole argument was just like, oh, I'm gonna go on my way. Well, I'm done. You gotta go your way, and like she literally just walks down the street. But yeah, it's the payphones stuck out to me.
Especially because like when in the beginning of the movie where like when the mom called the payphone to call him and he's like, how'd you get this number? It's a payphone, because he couldn't do that. Like I don't know how they always did that in movies where like people will call a payphone and someone will pick up and like, hello? Like right? Bro.
I guess was star 69 still the thing to where you can redial? So I guess if you call some, I wonder if that would work for a payphone. I guess so. Like
I don't think it did. That's the thing. I'm not sure if it did, because
no clue.
I don't think it was designed to have a ringer.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm a little too young. Like I remember payphones when I was younger. I remember they're not being everywhere, but like in certain locations. But like yeah.
I'm trying to think. When did I ever use a payphone? I always saw them. I don't think I ever did. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think I ever used one either. Huh. Like, and I think it's a good thing because like those things must have been really dirty. Yeah. It's put it to your ear too. All right, so I want to talk about production about this movie, and here's a unique thing about this film in particular. I told Travis right before I started, this is a unique film in that I couldn't find anything about this movie on how it was made. Not even on IMDb. Usually IMDb will have like trivia about like certain facts about this movie. The only fact I found about this movie on IMDb was that there has never been a DVD release of this movie. It was only straight to VHS, and the only DVDs that were made were for Australia and the UK. That's it. So I was like, damn, because usually what I do, I would get the DVD, I would borrow it from the library and just look up the audio commentary. They usually have like audio commentary or special features, and I'll research the film that way, right? I've done it many a time before, and for this movie, I couldn't even do that. Well, luckily, I was able to find it online because it's available to rent on YouTube and Google Play Movies. Like for $1.99, you can find it.
Yep.
So what I did was I had to look up the people who worked on this film, and then put in Brainsmasher next to it on Google, and find my information that way. So here, what I have today is what I've gathered from those articles. So in an interview with Steven Sato for IFC, Pyun is asked how he goes about with casting. Here's what he says. First, I find a story that I want, and then look around for what would be the most interesting on a limited budget, because I'm always on a limited budget. Generally, it's pretty risky because they're not things that people normally would imagine. I did a film called Brainsmasher where I had Teri Hatcher and Andrew Dice Clay. That was a weird sort of mix, and he laughs a little bit. I try not to think too much about the commercial side of things, just who would make the most interesting casting combination. That's why a lot of the casts for my movies have been pretty weird, pretty interesting. So that's why he kind of thinks like, what would be the weirdest combination, and just cast those two. So I find that interesting. And a little bit about Albert Pyun, I want to give like a little more context to him. So the Independent Film Channel has said that Pyun has carved out a unique niche as a director of low-budget, high-concept genre films starring actors past their prime. And they also add that, like, quote, others believe that is a charitable description of Pyun, who has also been derided as the new Ed Wood. And for those of you who don't know who Ed Wood was a terrible director. He was the director of many bad films, and so that's basically what they called Albert Pyun. And just a little short history by him. He made his first 8mm, 60mm films were made when he lived in Hawaii, and he credits like foreign countries and growing up in Hawaii as like influences to his filmmaking style. And I found this kind of cool because he got an internship with Japanese actor Toshiro Mifune to travel to Japan. And so he was going to work on he was intended to work on an Akira Kurosawa film called Dersu Uzala, which was to star Mifune, but the actor decided not to do the film. So instead, Pyun found himself working for a TV show with Toshiro under like the tutoring of Kurosawa's director of photography, Takao Sato. So he's got an interesting history.
I didn't do as much research on him, so that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, like if I can't find stuff about the movie, I'll try to find stuff about the people, and I found that very interesting. And he passed away in 2022. I think it was from dementia. And there's a documentary. Yeah, there's a documentary that's about him. I'm not sure if it's like released on streaming services yet, but it's about him and his love for filmmaking, and how the last film he was making, he was still making movies up until like his death, and he was struggling to make it because of his health problems, but he still wanted to make it. So it just shows like his love for film directing. Like he's not very well known in the mainstream, but I don't think he really wanted to be. He just did it for the love of filmmaking, and you gotta respect him for that.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And so I did more research into Chad Stahelski, and like I said, not a lot I could find about him on this movie, but I did see him in the credits. So in an article with Inverse, he describes his early career with Albert Pyun, because he's worked with him a couple of times as well for Nemesis 2 and for this movie. He said to the interviewer, you got to remember, this was the late 80s, early 90s, so the martial arts thing, it wasn't mainstream at all. There was no Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu yet, no UFC, no internet, no YouTube. I got hooked up with this little group of martial arts guys that would just get together every Friday or weekend and work out. And one of them was the guy named Burt Richardson. He was an instructor at the Inosanto Academy and was a pretty big name at the time. And that introduced me to Daniel Santos' school at the Inosanto Academy, which had a lot of stuntmen working in it. My main instructor had always wanted to get into a movie, so he had gotten in with an Albert Pyun movie. And I was one of Bert's main guys. I was 6'1", I was the right size. I had a lot of gymnastics and martial arts skills. They hired Bert and me as a package, and that happened to be Albert Pyun. And the job was in Moab, Utah for this movie called Nights with Chris Christopherson and Cafe Long. Albert took a liking to me, and I was still competing in martial arts at the time. So I do a movie, and then I get kicked in the head for a while, and then we come back and do a movie. Whenever Albert did a movie over the next 2 years, he'd call me. I ended up doing 4 or 5 films with him in a row. By the time I hit mainstream filmmaking, I had already been in the trenches. By the time I was 24, I had been in 5 European movies, and that's where I met Gary Daniels. It's through that world that I met Mark Dacascos and Marco Zaror. And then I met Brendan Lee, and I did The Crow with him.
Wow.
So we have this man to thank for indirectly getting us John Wick. We have Albert Pyun to thank. So even though it was Chad who did it, Chad and Keanu Reeves and all the stars of the films, Albert Pyun did have a huge influence, and he did call on him to work on these movies. That's where he got his experience, and then from there got connections, got jobs. So we have a lot to thank this movie for.
Yeah, interesting journey, man.
And I also want to mention Yuji Okamoto, who was the main bad guy, the main lead, the Shaolin monk. The only reason I want to mention him is because he's known as Chosen from the Karate Kid franchise. He's in the Karate Kid Part 2, and he's also in Cobra Kai, where he comes back as the same character and teaches karate. So
I think he was in Johnny Tsunami. I think he did maybe Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
let me see.
He's been around the block, and I just want to highlight him real quick because he did, with what he was given, he did a really good job. You know, there's only so much an actor can do with a script, and he did a really good job with what he was given.
Agreed.
So I just want to give him props for that.
100%.
Yeah. And
I wonder what that. Did you find anything on the budget for this?
I did not. Let me see if there's something on that.
Because that was my, with you going through the background and history of Albert Pyun and him, like you said, he was dealing with a lot of washed up actors, like past their prime and doing these like indie films. It was I'm very interested to see, because with us as filmmakers, I always look at the guys that are considered the underdogs in filmmaking and being like, hey, you're still getting $500,000, you're getting 1.5 million. You know what I mean? You're getting enough money to where it's like, there are people that appreciate the art form, and maybe they're not looking to make their return. Maybe they're looking to do a little product placement or use a facility or something like that they have funding for. So it's always interesting to see what the underdog filmmakers are getting to actually fund their projects.
Usually when I look on like Wikipedia, there's like usually like a box office like snippet or like box office or budget. There's not one for this right here.
Wow. Somebody was washing that paper, man. It was washing that paper.
But I will say, like, he had success with like a movie before. I think it was called The Sword and the Sorcerer. So because this isn't his first film. This isn't Albert Pyun's first film.
Oh yeah.
But like he found a lot of success with like Cyborg and The Sword and the Sorcerer. Yeah, and so that's how he got like, I guess he got regular work after that. But he's mostly known for like low budget B movies and direct to video action films. And so when the industry transitioned from straight to video to like direct to video, like, on demand stuff, he was able to make that transition because he already had that experience, And it just feels like this guy, if he was still around today, if he didn't have like health problems, I think he would have been a perfect fit for like 2B films,
Agreed.
I kind of don't have anything else to mention. Do you have any like final words you want to say before we conclude it?
Nah, man. Not off the top of my head. Because you mentioned Brandon Lee, and it got me thinking about a movie I watched that they made the year I was on. It's called Laser Mission. And I was going down the rabbit hole of that because you said he met him for Crow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So no, I was just going down when the rabbit hole of stuff you mentioned earlier, but I got nothing. I'm brain dumping on you right now.
I've got one final thought, and this is about the film itself, because it's called Brainsmasher. You expect him to smash some brains, right? And then what does he do in this film to like... Do you want to say it, or should I? Like what he does?
You can say it.
All right. So like the main bad guy, he takes the flower, but he's still like able to like fight, because even though it's poison, he's able to fight or whatever. He still shows some resistance. And so Ed just like punches him right in the face, right in the eyes, and just punches his eyes in. They're in, punches them in, so like he couldn't even open them. Like they're in his brain basically. and like he's just like blind and everything. But it looks so weird. The makeup looks so weird because it looked like they put like glasses on him before they put the prosthetic makeup on him.
Goggles,
right? And I'm like, and then like Sam is like, wow, Brainsmasher. I'm like, no, he didn't smash his brains. He just punched his eyes in, which is it's pretty impressive, you know, like just to do that with one punch. But still, he did not smash any brains.
No. I mean, well, technically with the haymakers and hooks he was throwing, you could call him the concussion smasher or something like that. I don't know. Because there was definitely some concussions given with them hooks for sure.
But yeah, I think Brainsmasher, A Love Story is an interesting title, but he didn't smash any brains. And I was a little disappointed.
Zero love dynamic. It was all, he's got a hot chick with her now. He protected her. She loves him.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, we are done with this episode. Thank you, Travis, so much for being here. Really appreciate you talking about this film with you.
Thanks for having me, man. I want to do another one. This was fun.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, was this movie a hit or a miss with you?
It's a hit for me for all the reasons I explained earlier. So yes, I'd say it's a hit.
All right. For me, I'm sorry, it's going to be a miss. Like, I enjoyed like the filmmaking. I respect the people who made this film. I understand like a lot of passion went into this. I just couldn't get into it I just couldn't enjoy it, unfortunately. Okay.
When we say hit or miss, are we saying for just us personally or the general population of recommendations? Personally,
okay, yeah.
As a filmmaker, it was a hit for me.
Yeah.
Andrew Dice Clay, Teri Hatcher.
Awesome. So where can we find you on social media?
The best thing to do is just check out my website, travisdartist.com. So TRAVIS, the letter D, artist.com. That's where I have my social, all my contact information, some projects I'm working on. Everything's listed there. You can reach out to me, contact me there.
All right, awesome. Thank you again for being here, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. And until next time, cross off a new film from your list.